Now, the long-expected all-out Russian assault on eastern Ukraine has begun. This according to the country's president, Volodymyr Zelensky.
That comes after the Kremlin declared the capture of Donbass its main goal of the war.
We can speak now to Government Minister Brandon Lewis, who is in Westminster and joins us this morning. Thank you very much for being with us today. We've heard, haven't we, from President Zelensky talking about more logistical help, talking about the need for ammunition. What sort of options are available to the government to give more assistance to Ukraine at the moment?
Yes, and absolutely, as you just reported, obviously we're seeing a further push, it seems, from Putin's regime. So we will continue to do all we can to support Ukraine, as the Prime Minister said when he was in Kyiv with the President just a week or so ago, actually. We'll be sending out further defensive arms. Some of those, I have to say, I've been very proud and lucky to be able to go and see being produced in Northern Ireland, actually, just in Belfast, the NLAWs and some of the other products that are being sent out there. So very much seeing the UK playing its part, and we'll continue to do that to support Ukraine and in the work that it's doing to defend the sovereign democracy of Ukraine.
I'm sure you've seen the reports about two British men who are being held captive by the Russians at the moment. Is there going to be some sort of prisoner exchange? Is it something that our government will get involved in?
Well, first of all, I've got to be really clear, as the Defence Secretary was a while ago, people should not be going from the UK out there. We've got a proper process for people in the UK who want to support Ukraine, both financially and obviously, as we've seen with hundreds of thousands of people opening their homes to people. That's the way to support Ukraine. The government and the armed forces are supporting Ukraine with the training work we've done, the support with the lethal defensive weapons and working with our partners in NATO. That's the right way to support Ukraine. So people should not be taking what is, in reality, an illegal route through into a very dangerous situation. So people shouldn't be doing that. I hope you'll appreciate I'm not going to comment on the situation with the two individual cases that you reference. But we really should be very clear with people that isn't what they should be doing. There are ways to support Ukraine, and those are the official ways that are on the government website that people can follow. OK, I'm sure the Prime Minister will be talking about that today, but it also, both he and the Chancellor will be appearing before MPs for the first time since they were both fined over their attendance at events which breached the government's own COVID legislation. Can I ask you this morning, Brandon Lewis, about trust? Do you think that the Prime Minister is able to rebuild trust with those people who voted for him to be Prime Minister a few years ago? Yes, I do, because look, as Prime Minister, and I'm fortunate to get to work with him as I've done previous Prime Ministers, and I work with him on a day-to-day basis. He is somebody who's focused on the issues that are affecting people across the country. He cares passionately about improving the lives of people across the UK. And I think people will see that, and and he will be able to build that trust. That means that he will fight and successfully win the next general election.
Do you think that he accepts that he broke his own rules?
Well, as he said in the statement last week, he absolutely accepts the decision that the police have come to. He's paid that fine. He's apologised for that. He's gone further than that as well. You know, he has a few months ago outlined that he accepts that some of the things that happened at Number 10 were not done in a way that people would see as being right and proper, and that's why he's been changing the team at Number 10. And he's done exactly what he said he would.
It's interesting, though, isn't it? Because this isn't the end of this. And I know there are lots of your colleagues in the Conservative Party who are waiting to see what happens. There could be more fixed penalty notices. The Sue Gray report, of course. He has to answer those questions about whether he misled Parliament or not. Is there a point at which, if those fixed penalty notices continue, if the Sue Gray report is damning, if he is found to be in trouble over what he said to Parliament, will he lose your support at some stage?
Well, look, firstly, you're quite right. We've got to wait and see what the outcome of those things is. I've never been tempted into hypotheticals, and I'm not going to start on that now. What I would say is people are going to want to see the outcome, so they get the full picture of what was happening. The Prime Minister, as I say, himself has outlined that there were things happening at Number 10 that he understands why people would be angry about. I've seen that myself, and that's why he's made those changes. He's apologised for what's happened. And I say in this particular instance, he's accepted the fine from the police, apologised for that. But I have to say his focus has been, and I've got to say the reason he's continued to have my support all the way through this, all through COVID, from when he had COVID himself right the way through the pandemic, has been making those decisions. And he's got those big decisions right on COVID, on Ukraine, and we're working on the issues as we're moving out of COVID and dealing with the cost of living pressures that people are finding, to do things that are the right things for people, to give them a better opportunity tomorrow.
On the issue of not getting involved in hypothetical situations, I remember having this conversation with Dominic Raab, and he sort of dismissed the fact that there could be sanctions coming Boris Johnson's way. And now he's the only Prime Minister to be sanctioned for breaking the law. I appreciate you're talking about hypothetical situations, but this is the strangest of situations where the Prime Minister actually broke the laws that he put in place.
Well, look, we've seen over the years, actually, ministers of both parties have had fixed penalty notices, whether it's been for various different things, including speeding, which I appreciate is not the same as the COVID regulations, but it is fixed penalty notices. What the Prime Minister has done is accepted that, he's acknowledged that, he's apologised for that. We've seen the other party leaders over the last few days being told that they've broken rules and regulations around COVID. What our Prime Minister has done is outlined that he recognised that things at Number 10 were not being done in a way that the public would expect them to be done. He's changed the team, he's done what he said he would do on that. He's accepted the fixed penalty notice last week, he's paid that fine, apologised for that, and he's getting back to and has been absolutely focused on the issues that are really going to have those long-term as well as short-term benefits and effects for people across the UK. As I say, whether it's the challenges with Ukraine or the domestic challenges that we're seeing that we're trying to deal with to help people with the cost of energy, the announcements today, for example, on reducing the rail fares for people to help the wider industry of tourism as well as the cost of living, all of these things are where his focus is rightly based.
Do you think that if the Prime Minister today comes before Parliament and talks, as you have mentioning parking fines with regards to what he has been sanctioned for, how do you think that will sit with people who couldn't attend family funerals?
Well, look, as I say, people have made, and I've said this on your show before, people have made huge sacrifices through the COVID pandemic. That's why the Prime Minister absolutely recognised the anger that people had around what they perceived and saw happening at Number 10 in that period. That's why he's changed the team at Number 10 as he said he would. I have not seen the speech and the statement that the Prime Minister is going to make later today, but yes, he will be making a statement to parliamentarians, which will obviously be covered later today. And I would expect you will see him continuing to make the point that he absolutely accepts the decision the police have come to. He's apologised, as he did last week, for those actions, and he is still focused on the issues that are going to have a big difference to our country and our country's economy and people's daily lives as we go forward, both coming out of the pandemic itself, but also with those wider issues around the cost of living pressures that people are feeling at the moment. And I think that's where ultimately people will judge this government. It's around dealing with those issues that are going to have those effects on our lives day to day and in the medium and long term.
I've noticed that quite a few Conservative MPs, when they are defending the Prime Minister at the moment, they are talking about the situation in Ukraine and, you know, we can't make changes or talk about the Prime Minister's future when this is going on. Tobias Ellwood, who's the chair of the Defence Select Committee, was asked that on this programme earlier on today. And one of the things he mentioned was that we're not at war. And if you look at history, we changed Prime Minister twice during World War II and during the Gulf War. And the point that he specifically made was that we've been helping Ukraine since 2014. And this has been happening through a number of Prime Ministers being in charge. And also, the head of the UK Armed Forces was changed in December, and this is a well-oiled military machine. It doesn't require the day-to-day support of the Prime Minister. There are support mechanisms there which can happen whoever's in charge.
Well, look, from my point of view, I've got to say I'm supporting the Prime Minister, and I will continue to support the Prime Minister because he's working hard and getting the decisions right on a range of issues. Look, yes, on Ukraine, he's been leading that work around the world with our colleagues, and let's be frank, it was the Prime Minister and the Defence Secretary who made those big decisions very early on to give that lethal defensive support to Ukraine when others, way ahead of others, that has made a big difference to the ability for Ukraine to defend itself. So he's made those decisions right. That is true. But look, my wider support for the Prime Minister is because he's also getting those big decisions right on domestic issues. As we've come through COVID, as we're coming out of COVID, the work we're doing to build a stronger economy for the future, to help people with the pressures around the cost of living that they're feeling. These are the issues I think people want to see the focus on, and they're the decisions that he's been getting right consistently through the last few years as Prime Minister, and I think will continue to do so.
One of the other things that lots of our viewers are talking about at the moment is the policy with regards to taking asylum seekers to Rwanda. Can I ask you, because this is the point that Emily Thornberry, who's the Shadow Attorney General, mentioned on this programme this morning. For those, for example, who are coming from a war-torn area or facing persecution in a country like Syria or Afghanistan, what is the safe route into the UK at the moment?
Well, people can come into the UK. Look, let's be frank, since 2015 we've had 185,000 people come into the UK through legal routes, whether it's been Afghanistan, Syria, Hong Kong, and obviously now we've got tens of thousands of people coming from Ukraine. And again, this is an area where the Prime Minister is making those big decisions, and huge credit to him and the Home Secretary for taking forward such an innovative scheme to look at how do we break the people smugglers' business model. How do we stop the modern slavery process that these people smugglers then put people into? And look, I've been Immigration Minister. This is a really difficult area. There are really, people have seen in the press, horrible scenes and stories about what these people smugglers put people through. We've got to break that business model. And doing something like this with Rwanda, which has got such a strong track record, is right for the people of the UK, who can be rightly proud of our humanitarian support, because this is a humanitarian thing to do. It's ensuring that we are deterring people from taking what is a treacherous as well as an illegal journey to the UK.
Can I ask you then, with someone with experience of this, you talked about your record in immigration, can you say hand on heart, given that senior civil servants have told the Home Secretary this isn't going to work, given that if you look at the Australian model, again, which Emily Thornberry mentioned on this programme, which has cost, I think, £1 million per person who's gone through that this £120 million deal with Rwanda will work and constitutes value for money?
Oh, look, I do think it will work. And look, let me also just clarify something there. I'd be very careful about some people interpreting what's happened at the Home Office in that way. There's a technical issue around how things are done in an accounting sense, an accounting officer. But equally, I would absolutely support the Home Secretary, who's an elected, democratically elected Member of Parliament and an appointed Secretary of State as I am. We are the ones as politicians who ultimately have to make these decisions, and I think it's right that the Home Secretary has made a decision like this. We're spending over £1 billion a year as a country. It's something like 4.7 million a day that people are spending for migrants who are in the UK, some of whom are here quite well, as I say, legally as well. It's right that we're looking at how we find a scheme that has a humanitarian side of stopping these people smugglers from putting people's lives at risk to take a treacherous journey. And at the same time, and this is the other side of the humanitarian side of it, giving these people who are fleeing countries a real chance of a positive future. We can do that if we've got a system in the UK that works, which we have. As I say, we've taken 185,000 in the last few years alone, and working with partners like Rwanda, who have got a great track record over the last few years of this, and is a very fast-growing economy. So I think this is a package that can work in a really positive way, both for the UK and, importantly, for those people who need support and help when they've done it in the right way. And it is wrong that we continue to say to people that somewhere like France isn't a safe place, that somewhere like Rwanda isn't a safe place. They are, and it is right that we work on these kind of schemes.
OK, Brandon Lewis, appreciate your time. Thank you for talking to us.
Thank you.